And from the top of West Mountain in Scranton, Pennsylvania, good morning, everybody. This is 94.3 FM, The Talker, Sanity Check. Libertarian Lou, Tea Party Mike. We got X on the line. Frank Sork is in studio. And if you want to start that weekend off right, another beautiful weekend here in Northeast Pennsylvania. That number is 888-577-4487, 888-577-4487. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Lou. You know, I have to ask everybody down there in Pennsylvania if the same thing's occurring here. I go out the other day to buy a box of 22 shells longs, and a box of, I think some people might refer to them as a brick, which is basically a box of 500. When I was in Pennsylvania, I bought some, a few years ago, they were about $18, $19. This time they were $61, Lou. $61. So I figured the whole gun control is just going to be simply, Lou, making ammunition no longer affordable for us to buy. I was totally floored, but it's 3 times more than what I paid 3 years ago, Lou.
Well, that's we've been talking about that for a while. That was the whole idea of it, Michael, and just keep driving up the cost to make it harder and harder to.
That seems like the best way to get control of guns. I mean, why pass legislation? Why try to take the guns out of the hands of anyone? Just make the ammunition so unaffordable that not even the meth cookers can afford it.
Yeah, they'll always get that. You know, the only ones that won't are the people that get taxed to death.
The good, honest people who can't afford to pay attention.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's interesting is that here in Texas, as soon as they're on the shelves, they're gone. People are buying them up like crazy. So I know we had talked earlier before the show about preppers, and it seems like this is a common thing. People are being prepared to be able to defend themselves and at home, because we know that the police department, Luke, can't get there fast enough. So this is, you know, a lot of talk, and we hear it, and I think there's a true concern amongst the, you know, folks and the citizens that they need to be prepared for whatever's coming.
So much stuff going on, Michael. I mean, and first of all, I have to harass all you guys. I mean, because every week, I mean, you know, we talk about so many topics so fast sometimes. It's really unbelievable.
We only have an hour. We have to get through. Just keep rolling.
And I forget. I don't know if it's the age or what's going on here, Frank, but sometimes I call, just so our listeners understand. I call you guys up. Do we talk about this last week? I think so. Maybe. I forget. So
we talk about so much.
So if I repeat stuff, it's not my fault. Once again,
no, it's okay because perhaps they weren't listening last week and they missed us. So now they're going to hear it again.
I brought up the topic of oblivit, and I think it's just a Western term, Michael. But sometimes I feel like oblivit, and for those that don't know what oblivit is, I mean it's
here it comes.
Here it comes. Well, it's
censored.
Well, it's 10 pounds of wet horse manure, whatever you want to call it, stuffed into a 5-pound bag. Sometimes that's what I feel like. I mean, you know, every week, Michael, we have so much going on, and this week, what I want to do is just step back for a minute and just like
We don't have time. We only have an hour.
I know we don't have an hour, and we have so many topics once again. I mean, which brings up one thing. Is X. I know X is going to come on. So, Michael, I'm out and about this week, and I hear this all the time. That X is really smart. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, well, what about me?
You're not as well connected.
Well, wait a minute. Yeah, right. Well connected. I mean, that's another thing that I hear. Right? You know, remember this, Michael?
This came, by the way, from a caller to my radio show, Jason from Washington, D.C. He's an insider. He's connected inside Washington, and that's the secret buzz going on inside.
That's the secret buzz. There you go, Michael. So anyway, I hear this stuff about X, right? He's really smart, and I'm thinking,
Washington D.C.
What about me? Am I? Yeah, but he's really been on his game lately, and I think, yeah, okay, I you know, he's really been on it. And go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, he's the only one on the show that doesn't have ADD. All right, so we all need to be able to admit that he's capable of staying focused. We're not, but we have medicine for that.
Right, so we got medicine.
The pharmacist down there tells us all about the medicines we can get.
You know, I hear, yeah, but the topics he brings up is really good, and I'm thinking, How about me? Do I bring up good topics? Yeah, but so anyway, so in the second segment here, Michael, X will be coming on and he'll be talking about whatever
Words of wisdom
once again about some kind of ground war in Yemen or something driving up, who knows, gas prices or something. So
just when we were getting that cheap oil, I don't get it. President Obama slaved day in and day out to get us that oil on the cheap.
On the cheap. So anyway, so X will be on in the next segment. But in the meantime, Michael, just to take a break here, all kidding aside, there are so many different things. I this past week, I'm writing this stuff down. Couple trips to Harrisburg. I know it was in Stroudsburg. For all I remember, I might have been to Montana and back, Frank. I have no idea. But we have a lot of cool events coming up. We really do. And this next week, Jillian from the Cornstalk Festival, we're going to be at that. That's a whole bluegrass festival and everything else. Michael, another thing that we talk about is voting with your pocketbook. I want to bring up the tattoo convention.
Voting just got a little easier in Pennsylvania. Did you know that, Michael?
Well, we could jump on that subject too, but go ahead. Now we have to finish that one up. Go ahead. Now we break. You see, this is what happens, Michael. We have so much to talk about.
Here it is.
The ADD. Go ahead. What happened with the voting?
You started on voting, so folks need to know that now they can register to vote right online. The days of mailing in that paper have passed. Thank you, Governor Wolf, for signing legislation that allows people to register in their underwear from their own home in the middle of the night.
And as he's making it easier to vote, he's making it harder for third parties to be on the ballot. There you go. But that's another.
But you can register now, Lou. You can join the mainstream and register as Coke or Pepsi like everyone else in Pennsylvania.
Brother. So anyway, listen, we have the Cornstalk Festival coming up next week. Jillian's going to talk about that in the second segment or third segment at the half hour. Michael, we do talk about voting with our pocketbooks and all those other things. We don't normally talk about this, but Mark's Tattooing has been with us since day one. And they're actually hosting the tattoo convention at the Mohegan Sun this Labor Day weekend, September 4th, 5, and 6. So if that's your shtick, I don't think any of us here. I'm looking around. You're not. I don't have tattoos. I know.
Speak for yourself, Lou.
So anyway, the World of Ink. We're going to be covering that next week. John DiLiberto is going to go down there, Michael, and take some fine pictures and we have somebody writing the whole story up. But if that's your thing, and certainly, once again, consider Mark's Tattooing and stuff like that. They've been with us since day one, Michael. So that's that coming up. What else do we got up? The Jerry Mowry, that was our headline story last month, or the month of August. This month, we're just about out of it, in the Quad. That's a fundraiser that's taking place today, and that's at the Black Walnut American Legion. And look, it starts early this morning, so we're going to be heading up there right after the show, and that's in between Laceyville and Mashopin. So that's going on. Look at this. What have we got? In radio, Michael, you do not have to. You don't have to look all that good, even though we do. I have my.
That's why we're in radio.
That's why but that's why we're taping it, just to put it out there. But as usual, what kind of shirt do I have on there?
A shirt that doesn't bear its trademark.
Though. How do you like that?
It's a muckraker shirt.
Michael, after all these years, okay, it's been 2 years. We get the letter August 25th. Dear Lewis, your trademark muckraker has been granted registration. The original certificate of registration for the United States Patent and Trademark Office is enclosed in the mailing. Therefore, as we move forward, the only one, or the only organization legally allowed to sell the whole muckraker T-shirts is us, Michael. How you like that? So if we see them coming from China, we'll just have to go over to China and get them.
Those are ours.
So that's another thing going on, Mike. And what else? We got all kinds of good stuff going on. Like I said, I was down in Harrisburg this week. Yesterday, the Carbon County, the Oktoberfest September issue just came off the presses. We were down there doing some stuff with John DiLiberto. The scanning of license plates. That's another thing that's going on. reached out to Senator Fulmer and Aaron Coffer. By the way, Michael, they both got back to me. What do you think of that?
Whoa, you are special. Matter of fact, they must think different than most do.
Well, no, but now I'm thinking about Casey, and I'm thinking about Cartwright, and still. I mean, it's only been now, going into our 4th week. When was Marino on? About 3 weeks ago?
And you won't hear. Do you remember, Lou, when Cartwright was running, and we asked every weekend, every Saturday for him to call, and he wouldn't.
What's the matter with these people?
And he's not going to call. So that's just the way it is. And if you happen to call the office, you get a letter back. That's certainly a letter that's been sent out to everyone. So, yeah, they're not representing the people, Lou. That's my opinion.
So for those that heard our show last week, I think we mentioned it. Once again, I have no idea because you guys don't help me out at all here. But I think we mentioned about the scanning of license plates. Our own John DiLiberto is testing a few things. But one of the things that was brought up is that routinely the Pennsylvania State Police is scanning license plates as you're heading down the highway. And Senator Fulmer's office, I reached out. When I did talk to them, one of the questions I had, Michael, was that, is it against the law for them to do that? And they said there is no law, so therefore they could do whatever they deem necessary. And there's a lot of folks this week, too, who said, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we're all in for scanning license plates because you might be doing something wrong. That's not our shtick, but it is a lot of people feel as though that's the way to go.
Preventative, Lou. In the event that your vehicle was stolen, and
that's exactly what was brought up.
Or
somebody
come along and scan that plate. Poof, that's Lou's car. He reported that stolen in Wyoming County. Let's grab it.
And on the flip side of that, what is tied to our license information that's tied to the plate. And of course, if I was driving a vehicle, say I borrowed John's car, and the next thing I know, I'm getting pulled over and checked out. So there's many questions to that, Michael. Certainly, Fourth Amendment questions. We've reached out to Mark Scaringi. I'm sure Mark will get back to us sometime this week, and we'll follow up a little bit more exactly what that's all about too. So it's been a busy week, and we got a lot more coming up, Michael, too. I mean, it's just we're doing well here. I mean, things are hopping. We have the fall edition of the Quad will be coming out in a week or two, and then we roll into our election editions. Frank, one of the things I want to talk about election editions, by the way, are you having a debate? Are you going to be debating?
I've been asking for one. My opponent doesn't seem to want one.
Your opponent?
So I'm wondering if there is going to be a debate. I'm all for it. I'm ready, willing, and able to debate anytime, anywhere. So at the next Gazette Forum, let's have that debate, Lou.
We can.
Okay, let's do it.
I mean, have you been asking? I mean, I've
been asking.
And it's Tony George, right? You're
Correct.
running for mayor.
Correct.
Michael, I would think that you got two new people, right? Leighton's gone.
Absolutely.
I mean, so let's have some debates. So we have to keep that on the radar.
Right. The people need to have their questions answered now. I mean, who's going to be the best candidate for mayor? Obviously, I'm biased. I believe it's me. I'm sure Tony feels the same way.
Right.
So we need to get our ideas on the table. We need to have citizens asking questions, and the candidates answer those questions. It's the only way to make an informed decision.
Let's start getting that out there. Maybe I'll talk to David this week. Maybe 94.3 may want to step up and do a debate.
Sounds good.
I mean, this is important stuff, Michael, and I think candidates should be debating these issues, and maybe even a couple debates, because it's two new people running for mayor in Wilkes-Barre.
Right. Well, I would think
and we do have a track record for that, don't we?
We do. I would think at least one debate mid-October, whenever get it out there so that it's fresh in the voters' minds and they know what to expect from their candidates.
Michael, I want to remind our listeners that it was 4 years ago, right? And
That's
it
right.
was only because of us that we did have it. That was when you and me didn't necessarily see eye to eye very much.
Well, we saw eye to eye, Lou. We absolutely did. We both thought of a better Wilkes-Barre.
Right.
We both thought of getting the corrupt regime out of office.
I think he has his political hat on here, Michael.
No.
He's being very nice.
And we just had different ideas of how to get that hack out of office. That was the difference.
So let's call Tony. Let's get Tony in a debate. They come right in here if you wanted to. That'd be fantastic.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good. So, Michael, that's it. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have X and his words of wisdom. You listen to 94.3 FM, The Talker, Sanity Check.
Talk Radio. Saturday mornings, 94.3 FM, The Talker.
This came, by the way, from a caller to my radio show, Jason from Washington, D.C. He's an insider. He's connected inside Washington, and that's the secret buzz going on inside the Beltway. Jason from Washington, D.C. Jason. He's an insider. He's connected inside Washington.
Connected Insider, that's what we got on this show. 94.3 FM, The Talker, Sanity Check, Libertarian Lou, Tea Party Mike. Good morning, X.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Hey, listen, before you launch into your words of wisdom, I just want to take a quick call. I don't want to keep Virginia holding, but she's calling about the Defending the American Dream Summit. And because of Virginia, we actually changed. We actually changed our Let Freedom Ring rally from what we were thinking about in August, and it looks like October 3rd, and we'll get into that. But good morning, Virginia.
Good morning. How are you guys today?
We're doing good. Not too much cups of coffee yet.
American Dream Summit by Americans for Prosperity had a record attendance, 3,600.
Wow.
Out of that, there were 140-some from Pennsylvania, 4 of us from Northeast Pennsylvania, 3 of us being from Patriot Connectors.
All right.
It was high energy. We got to see 4 of our presidential candidates.
Ooh.
One of the biggest things was too much information. There were so many breakout sessions, you couldn't make up your mind what to go to. I did go to see Ajit Pai, our Commissioner of Federal Communications. That was fascinating, all about the net neutrality.
Oh, boy.
Very informative, and he's dynamite as far as getting the word out for people. Another one that I found fascinating was the moral case for fossil fuel. The author, Alex Epstein, and that was phenomenal. We also had 2 groups of agitators, big union
All right.
riot, rally, whatever, buses of union people. There were about 1,000 of them. I didn't see that too much, but there were also some people, activists with puppet heads out front, and I engaged them in some conversation, and we came up with a few areas of common ground that we could agree on, and they were quite reasonable to speak with.
Well,
but all in all, it was a good thing.
Well, that's what normally happens when we're able to have a conversation, Virginia. I've found in many ways. We've said this on numerous occasions. For the most part, we all want the same things in life. Who doesn't want clean air? Who doesn't want clean water? Who doesn't want safe and secure roof over our heads? Quality education, affordable health care. We all want the same things, but we obviously all have different ways to get there. But when we're able to have a conversation, we find very often that there is common ground, and that's what we love about this show. This is what we like about 94.3 FM, The Talker, and certainly what we try to do in our newspapers, and we do in our newspapers. We give everybody a voice. So this event was this past week, right, or was it the week before?
The past weekend. And Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, and I was going to say, what came out of this? I mean, what did you get out of this, and where are you guys moving forward from here? I know what you guys are doing up at Patriot Connectors, but
the Americans for Prosperity do not endorse any candidates. They just try to get the information out there.
Correct.
At a grassroots level, and Pennsylvania is going to be very involved in some of the all the stuff that's going on in Harrisburg with the budget and a lot of the other things that are coming out. They're going to have something going on in Harrisburg fairly soon. I don't have any information on that, but I'm sure Beth Ann will get back to us on it.
Well, one thing that can be guaranteed out of, or we could expect out of Harrisburg is they will continue to pass as many laws as they can, so we could always stay on top of that. So there's never shortage of that, Virginia. So
That's
listen,
for sure.
Thanks for calling in, and you got the Patriot Connectors once again, second Thursday of every month at Lake Wallenpaupack High School, correct?
Yes, sir.
7
That's
p.m.
us.
Yep, we'll see you guys next month or this month coming up, and thanks for calling in. So
Thank you.
You betcha. Thanks. X. So you heard the lead in here. What and not only that, not only do I have to hear your words of wisdom, but I have to hear everybody else around me talking about your words of wisdom also. But all things in jest here. What do you got going on, and what we did talk a little bit about what's going on in Yemen?
Well, it's very simple. The past week, we've had, or what appears to be the final bottoming in oil prices. What happened was, on Monday, we had this all-time low within the price of oil. Recently, it went to a 6.5-year low, down to $38 a barrel. And then on Thursday and Friday, it rocketed up, largest two-day gain since March of 2009. Oil's back above $45 a barrel. And all of this, or a good portion of this, was because we don't have really confirmed sources from like an ABC News sort of thing, but the Saudis have launched a ground war in northern Yemen. And what's been taking place that a lot of people don't understand is that with the price of oil being in the sub 40s right now, Saudi Arabia is hemorrhaging money. They have a sovereign wealth fund worth about $632 billion that they are burning through between $12 and $15 billion a month because they need the price of oil to be about $103 a barrel to just pay their bills. So they're almost playing financial suicide here, because if they had just removed 1 million barrels of their 10 million barrels in production per day off the market, they would have been able to maintain the price above 90. So instead of them being, trying to maintain market share and have production above 10 million, they've essentially destroyed the price and cut the price by 60%. It's crazy math. Now, maybe there are political things going on. Maybe the Obama administration, tried to strong-arm them in a way of saying, look, we're making a deal with Iran. We want to hurt them and force them to the bargaining table, so drop the price of oil temporarily. Maybe they want to get at the Russians because obviously low oil prices hurts the Russians too. But really, at the end of the day, this idea that oil production is going to be able to stay at the rate that it has can't take place, because what happens is Saudi Arabia is burning through money. The American fracking companies are now teetering, depending on the balance sheets. There's over $550 billion worth of high junk bonds that are against this particular market that are going to start to come due over the next 5 years. There's a lot of companies that will go bankrupt at these prices. So what happens is, instead of putting the normal maintenance and upkeep and trying to find new sources of oil, all of the companies are canceling their capital spending. So it's like you own a rental building with 100 units, but you refuse to fix the toilets, patch the roof, do maintenance and upkeep. Eventually it will catch up to you, and then suddenly you have a whole bunch of units that are falling apart. And that's what's going to take place within the oil industry. So earlier in the week, we were supposed to have a draw build. We were supposed to build up the supplies in the United States by 1.2 million barrels. That's what they were estimating. It turned out that they had the drawdown was over 5 million barrels. So all of the experts were wrong by 6 million barrels over the
experts. We always have these experts, and they seem like they're always so wrong on everything. Without even,
why are they called experts?
It's the talking heads on TV, and it's just it's
pretty
just
much.
Really crazy.
Again, the interesting thing about it is, remember, the decline in oil prices that we've seen over the last year has not. There wasn't I can't think of a single person that was on saying the prices would drop anywhere below $70 a barrel. Now, remember, the Saudis are going to meet again in November. They're going to have their meeting, and remember, they're 1/3 of the market. They're responsible for about 10 million barrels, 10.6 million barrels per day.
Wow.
The rest of OPEC's responsible for the other 20. And almost the vast majority of all of those producers, the Venezuelas, the Angolas, and so forth, they're all dying. I mean, we could have a sovereign wealth crisis where these countries run into a gigantic problem because, again, they can't pay their bills. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Saudis to remove supply probably near the end of the year. But even if they don't remove supply, the supply from the U.S. is going to stop. It's going to start going down. And once that happens, we are setting ourselves up for a very rapid bounce possibly within the prices because it takes years sometimes to get these projects. And remember, when you go to a bank and you want to borrow money, years ago the bank would say, okay, you're drilling for oil, we'll lend you the money for 5%. Well, going forward, the banks are going to be like, no way, we're not going to lend you any money. That's too risky. We're going to charge you 10%. See, so it's creating a perverted cycle.
Well, you just mentioned something here. Why is the oil production going to stop in the United States? I mean, why do we not? I mean, it seems as though that there's a plethora of between fracking and natural gas and oil. Why is it in our best interest to slow down the oil production, X, in your opinion?
Well, we can't. The whole point is oil is always determined by what the next barrel you need is. It's not the first 10 million barrels, the next 20 million barrels. The world needs about 94 million barrels of oil per day. And the question is, what is the next most expensive barrel costing us? So the U.S. could produce, and we're on track, we're producing more oil than we have since 1971. Okay, of course that gets, everybody seems to forget that part. But it has to do with the fact we were able to do it because the prices were high. Well, if the prices start to go down, nobody's in the business of losing money. You don't pump oil out of the ground to lose money on every barrel that you sell. So that's kind of the conundrum that we're in. We'll always have supply as long as the price is high enough. And the problem is the crush in prices is eventually, it doesn't happen overnight, but it has temporarily destroyed prices, driving them down over 63% from the high from a year ago. Now, just within the last 3 or 4 days, we've had the prices again start to move back up very, very rapidly. We can't get complacent with this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and you know what? We're going to take our break, X, and then we will get back to this because this is you raise not only a number of questions. Certainly, I have a few questions, and probably as do you. You listen to Sanity Check on 94.3 FM. The Talker. We'll be back.
Tea Party Mike, Libertarian Lou, Saturday mornings, 94.3 FM. The Talker.
As we roll down this unfamiliar road, and although this wave is stringing us along, just know you're not alone, 'cause I'm gonna make this place your home.
You know you're not alone. 94.3 FM, The Talker, Sanity Check, Libertarian Lou, Tea Party Mike. X is on the line. Frank Sorek is in studio, and we're going to change it up here a little bit and talk some music. We got Jillian, who is the founder, the producer, the chief cook and bottle washer of the Cornstalk Festival. Good morning, Jillian.
Good morning, Lou. Man, you guys get up early. I'm a musician. I'm not used to this.
Hey, listen.
Morning sunrise.
Hey, one of the things I talk about all the time is that most of our listeners know I had a motel and bar and restaurant and a really, really country western cowboy bar out in Montana. And it used to drive me crazy because anybody that's in that business, you finish up at 2 a.m. You're not getting home till 4 or 5 sometimes. By the time you finish cleaning up as a musician, you're packing and stuff. And I would have people at my front door at 7 o'clock in the morning knocking on my door saying, "What are you, lazy? What's the matter with you? Get out of here! What are you, crazy?" So yes, I certainly get it, if not everybody else. But so listen, we're going to be at this festival, and certainly we're inviting our listeners to come to the festival. But and I'm really looking forward to this because I think I had mentioned this once before to you also is that back when we did have the bar, which was right outside of Yellowstone, every year we'd have the Northwest Fiddlers Jamboree there, and it was just an unbelievable time. And this is pretty much what the whole Cornstalk Festival is about, right?
That's right. I mean, we have fiddles, banjos, mandolins, basically all the roots music instruments you'd ever need. But we focus a lot on just the Americana roots music. So it's not all bluegrass. It's not all fiddle stuff. We have swing, Appalachian. We even throw in some reggae.
Wow. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, and this is taking place in Tunkhannock, and we could do. I'm going to be camping out. I mean, I'm looking forward. I'm going to set the tents up for or at least for the vendors anyway. I think we could set up on Thursday, but this starts on Friday, correct?
Yeah, you can start setting up your tent Friday morning at 9 a.m. if you want. And I think the best way to come is to stay for the whole weekend because you got your campfire jams at night. We have the late night show that goes until 12:30, 1 a.m. or so, depends on how the guys feel that are playing. But we also have music all day long starting, Friday we don't get rolling until around 3, but Saturday and Sunday we're starting at 11 a.m. So if you want to just come out for the day, we have day tickets as well.
The folks here in studio, they're all shaking their heads saying, wow, wait a minute, this sounds like a really, really good deal. Where in Tunkhannock? I should have it right in front of me, but where is this taking place in Tunkhannock?
Well, it's at the best spot in Tunkhannock. It's at Lazy Brook Park, right along the Tunkhannock Creek. It's easy to get to. It's right off of Route 6 across from Deer Park Lumber, just about 3 miles outside of town on the east side. Outside of Tunkhannock, and it's right along, like I said, the creek. So my family, we always go, bring our inner tubes and take a little stroll and ride down the creek. Lots of people. And it's supposed to be hot next weekend, so you should definitely be prepared to go in the creek.
So I'm looking at the flyer: camping, arts and crafts, food vendors, kids zone, music workshops, outdoor fun, and then some of the and some of the bands. You have the Bog Swing Group here, a band of strings, Doug Smith's Dixieland All Stars. I mean, this is and just the fact. I mean, you got my attention really when you said just hanging around the campfire, and I could just see if it's anything like what the. Like what we used to have out west. I mean, these folks they just love playing, and a lot of times it's just a good time, right?
Yeah, and roots music doesn't have to be just a spectator sport. If you have an old, guitar sitting in your corner that's gathering dust, bring it down because we'll have guitar workshops, banjo workshops. We also have an all-day workshop on Friday for people that want more time with the pros, and that's going to be at the Dietrich Theater all day Friday morning.
You talk about banjo workshops. Back in the day, I think I'm going to bring my banjo. I'm going to come down and.
I pegged you for a banjo player, Lou. I knew there was
my
something
fingers
about
are really
you.
thick, so one of the things was that I used to try to play the guitar, Frank, and I have these big knobs for fingers, and it used to get so frustrating, and I just picked up, I started doing the banjo, and the local music store in Tunkhannock. I was down there talking to the folks down there, and they said that they were going to put a workshop on at the Cornstalk Festival here. So this is really cool stuff.
Yeah, well, we are very excited, and we're really excited this year because we have our first international band. We have Red Wine Bluegrass coming. They're like Europe's premier bluegrass band. We have Professor Louie and the Crow Matrix. They do just some awesome sort of Zydeco blues kind of stuff. And Professor Louie actually used to collaborate with the band, that big, classic rock band.
One of the so what you have weekend passes, right? And then you also have the day passes, correct?
Right. So our weekend passes, if you get them in advance, you can get them on our website, cornstockfestival.com, like Woodstock, but with corn.
Right.
And those are only $45 for the whole weekend. That includes camping, playing in the creek, shopping at the food vendors, seeing the artist demonstrations. We're going to have blacksmithing, pottery, alpaca fiber spinning, all kinds. We'll have like a little folk arts village. If you get them at the gate, the weekend passes are $55. So it's best to get it beforehand. But, if you just want to come for the day, we have day passes ranging in price from $15 to $30.
How can you
depending on
beat
which
that,
day.
man? You can't, Frank, right? I mean, you can't beat this. And you've also given us some tickets to give away, and that's going to be on the Quad Independent Gazette. And we got 2 sets of tickets to give away to this, and we thank you for that. And I'll be doing more promotion here on the radio this week coming up also, and certainly. So we have a couple. Not only do we have a couple sets of tickets to give away. I mean, it's like stealing, as they say, Jillian. I mean, $15 to come and spend the day and listen to people play music and hang out, and for the weekend and all that stuff.
I can't believe $45 for a weekend. That's unheard of.
And I have the whole flyer in front of us. And once again, Jillian, what we want to do is send folks to cornstalkfestival.com, correct?
That's right, but not like the corn stalks that grow out of the ground, like corn stalk, like wood stock.
Oh, corn stalk. You're exactly right. I'm looking at it. Thank you. And certainly if folks even Google that up and all those things.
If you're just looking for a weekend getaway and
okay,
to try
and you're right here. It's a Labor Day weekend.
Right.
First of all, it's Labor Day weekend, right? So you're going to have that all going on. So instead of driving to New Hampshire or up to Maine or down to Philadelphia or whatever else, I mean, certainly within our local area here, I mean, it's right there. I mean, Tunkhannock.
It's literally just outside of Tunkhannock, a mile south of Shadowbrook Inn and Resort. I mean, Lazy Brook Park is the former Lazy Brook development. That was, it's a beautiful park for those
and at
who
our
never...
table, we're going to have, Jillian, we're going to have a number of, I talked to some of the folks that support us there, Nimble Hill Winery, certainly Twigs, we got Seasons. A number of these are going to have coupons for folks that come. So, I mean, you're going to save even what you would be doing just by going to these places. So, Jillian, all good. I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be a blast. Thank you for the opportunity to have a table there, and certainly we'll be giving away our papers and doing all the other things that we normally do. But more importantly, just hanging out and listen to these folks play, man. It don't get any better than that.
Yeah, hey, I agree with you, Lou. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, you bet, Julia. We'll see you probably Thursday sometime.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks for calling. So listen, so you see, that's what you guys miss down there, X down in Arlington and Michael in Texas, unless you guys come up for the Cornstalk Festival and pitch your tent.
I love banjo playing.
What's that?
You can't find banjo playing and fiddle playing. It's not very common, so that's a great thing.
And just sitting around and just hanging out. So, X, I want to get back into this conversation. I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that Donald Trump has been talking about. So what we'll do is we'll break here a little bit early, and when we come back, we'll delve back into...
Finish the show with Trump.
Finish the show with Trump. This is 94.3 FM, The Talk of Sanity Check.
Some nights I stay up, cashing in my bad luck. Some nights I call it a draw. Some nights I wish that my lips could build a castle. Some nights I wish they just fall off. But I still wake up, I still see your ghost. Oh Lord, I'm still not sure what I stand for. Oh, what do I stand for?
What do you stand for, Lou?
I don't know anymore. And we're back. 94.3 FM, The Talk of Sanity Check. Libertarian Lou, Tea Party Mike. X is on the line. Frank Sorek is in studio. And actually, we do know what we stand for, and we've been fighting for a very long period of time, guys. And that is truth in the media. And once again, without, thank you to our subscribers and thank you to our advertisers. And I'm becoming way more adamant, Frank, on really voting with my pocketbook. Just this past week, Amber Donia has come on as the pizza place, and we're certainly there's thousands, and we have the other one right there in Wilkes-Barre also. Pronto, they've been with us right
from the start.
You know what? And thank you for all that, guys.
You're not going to find better pizza in Wilkes-Barre.
And you could go all over to get pizzas, right? I mean, Michael, we could buy pizzas everywhere, just like you could get your tattoos anywhere. I mean, and certainly we're I'm just doing it more often. And X, we've talked about this, and Michael, you've talked about this. Is that the best way you vote is vote with your pocketbook? And certainly, I want people to start, to just keep planting these seeds, and and that could be the accountant, that could be the lawyer, that could be, we fight so hard to fight for liberty and watching our liberties erode here. And if we're giving that money to individuals that are just going to turn around and give it to people that don't believe in our values, it's maybe time to look other ways. Guys, I want you guys to get into a little bit. Michael or X, Frank, it seems like I've been hogging the airways a little bit today.
Let's get back to X. We were discussing the oil prices.
Go ahead. I know X is really smart.
And the
I know.
War in Yemen. We do want to hear from someone smart. X, you have the floor.
This whole thing with Trump here over the last week or so, the biggest thing that people really aren't talking about, but the panic behind the scenes is this. Bernie Sanders is only getting 4% of minority support. Hillary Clinton is getting all of the minority support within the Democratic Party. And what happens is if something happens to her, there's a really good chance that whoever might be the nominee, if it's not her, will not be able to carry the minority vote the way Obama did. And now with Trump rising and Trump going around the country pointing out, look, you live in the inner city, guess what? Does illegal immigration hurt you in the inner city? Well, guess what? What happens if 10, maybe 20% of the African-American or other minority votes that are directly impacted by illegal immigration jump ship? And that was the thing that you had pointed out earlier, Lou, that you're actually you've heard from people that are a minority in the United States that are actually talking about Trump when they never would say the words Jeb Bush, Rick Santorum of the world.
Jeb who?
Rick, is he still in this?
And a lot of the things, Michael, that and X that Trump has brought up. One of the things that we have been talking about is China, and I think next week, and we're working on getting the author of about the Federal Reserve. I just had a brain freeze, but when we talk about the Federal Reserve, certainly we want to continue to point out, when he's talking about China, I'm looking at our old notes, Michael. Remember we went through the top 15 folks or organizations that own our debt? And number 2 was China, and at the time it was 1.3. I heard Trump talking about 1.4 trillion dollars and Japan, but just so we're all clear on this is that who owns the Federal Reserve, who owns our debt. I mean, number 15 was Switzerland. I'm just looking at this. Number 14 was Taiwan. Number 13 was the Caribbean Cayman Banking Authority. Number 12 was Brazil. Number 11 were the oil exporters that own our debt: Ecuador, Venezuela, Indonesia, Bahrain, Iran, Iraq. And people are probably saying, what the heck, man? We thought it's all China. Well, it's not all China. Number 10 was the insurance companies. 9 is the depository institutions. Number 8 is United Kingdom. 7 is state and local government. 6 is municipal funds. 5 is pension funds. And the list goes on. 4 was Japan at the time, X, and it was at 1.0.
You better get a good bankruptcy lawyer.
It's unbelievable. But once again, we look
China has been dropping billions of dollars of our debt because they need to convert it to try to prop up their failing stock market.
Yeah,
they've sold well in excess of $100 billion in this time frame. And again, this is because their quantitative easing was designed to try to make the stock market go up, just like our quantitative easing is to drive the stock market up. Remember, the Fed works for the banks and will do what it can to protect the banks. It does not work for the individual that's out there. Again, the joke would have been the Fed would have been better off printing a bunch of money and giving everybody a check for $20,000 and say, go piss it away, as opposed to giving it to these too big to fail banks.
And that would have been a great stimulus.
Right.
I mean, think about that. You're driving to work today, and you're getting taxed to death, going to work at Home Depot or wherever you're going to work today, just think if you got a check in the mail for 10 grand and then what that would do for the economy, except X, like you point out, is, and then who, instead of bailing out the big banks, but then once again, we keep asking this question, who owns the Fed? All we do is say, do your own research. We know that the 12 Federal Reserve banks own the Federal Reserve, but who owns those banks? We don't rightly know. I mean, and those are important questions. And then once again, as we talk about China owning this much, that much, the Federal Reserve and other intergovernmental holdings was at $6.3 trillion, and the Fed itself owns 1.65. So more than any other group, more than any other country, the Federal Reserve owns the majority of our debt. And X and Michael, I'm going to throw this back out to you guys and our audience. Who owns the Federal Reserve? I mean, why is this not a question that we should be asking? Hopefully it becomes more on everybody's radar.
Well, the American people have a common misconception that because it's the Federal Reserve, that it must be owned by the United States government, correct? I mean, that would seem logical enough. However, we all know that's completely
it's not
untrue.
It's not completely correct. Go ahead, Michael. I'm sorry.
No, I was agreeing with Frank. It's up till recently, the Federal Reserve wasn't even on my radar. And, of course, the assumption is it's part of the United States government, exactly what Frank is saying. So I think it's a whole educational process. I do believe more and more people are aware of it. Here in Texas, I talk about the Federal. They're not sure what the Federal Reserve is, but they know it's not United States government. So that's a start, Lou.
It is a start, and it is very convoluted. I mean, when you look at this stuff, and we've been on this for a while, when I actually look at it, it's some kind of quasi government, federal agency that's not, even though it's licensed by Congress. They really, and they're supposed to have oversight on what's going on, but Congress has really abdicated their authority to the Federal Reserve, right, X? I mean, when was the last time they were ever called on their carpet? When we even call for an audit of the Fed, I mean, we have all these barriers thrown up.
Well, this is what happens. The Federal Reserve is owned by the member banks.
Correct.
The member banks aren't making a bunch of money off of it, but the whole point is the member banks, sit and appoint and work on that. So you're supposed to believe that if all of the heads of Exxon and Chevron all got together, do you think they'd be working to make oil prices lower? Do you think they'd do anything to put themselves out of business or get rid of the members that, would permanently lose their seats? When Citibank should have gone under, okay? Wells Fargo's debatable. Certainly JP Morgan probably could have gone down. A lot of these member banks would no longer have seats anymore. They would have completely folded. And again, what we ended up doing was we ended up bailing out those that were doing the worst behavior. And that's the key through all of this. If the legacy of Eric Holder is one thing, when he said they're too big to jail, that lets you know the way the system works. You get above a certain amount, you have a certain amount of money. I mean, hell, there was a DuPont heir that raped his stepkid, and they didn't put him in jail. Okay, that's what happens when you're a DuPont. But if you're Joe Schmo from Harrisburg, you're gonna go to jail.
Yeah, for taking
for having a bumper sticker.
For having a bumper sticker, right? Or it really is. And once again, we see the hypocrisy. I mean, we've been on the courts and everything else too, and we look at all of this stuff. So, but once again, it all starts locally, guys. And what can we do? I don't want to leave the last 4 minutes of the show on a downer here. We know what's going on. We know we're corrupted.
We can elect Trump, and he'll make America great again.
More important than Trump, though, seriously, in my opinion, Frank, it's electing Frank Sorek, and it's not because you sit next to me, because that's what's going to affect John DiLiberto for living, and the Betsy Summers and all the people that we know, the Linda Urbans that live in Wilkes-Barre.
Your local elections have a bigger impact on your life than who's in the White House, who your senator or congressman is. If the time comes that you need a government agency, it's always going to be your local government. You're not going to head to Washington. I know very few people who have ever headed to Washington, but many who've gone to City Hall to pull that building permit or whatever, and they always hear, well, Lou, who do you know?
Right.
You know, do you know anyone at City Hall that can help me get that permit or help me do this? You know, I want to put up a garage and they're telling me no, it doesn't fall within zoning.
So, at the end of the day, guys, it really is. I mean, so they, we need people and we want people to get involved. Certainly you could come out to the Cornstalk Festival next week and talk to me about it over the campfire. Listen to some good banjo music. But that all being said, Michael and Annex, I mean, it comes down to local elections. So we're encouraging folks to get more involved in our local elections. We have some, I know, Wyoming County commissioners over in Tunkhannock. We're going to have some individuals running for office come on the air here soon with that, Michael, and certainly more locally here. And I think that's a good way to kind of run with the show here, Mike.
Well, it's interesting here in Blanco, the school board, and I don't know if this occurs in Pennsylvania, but once you get elected to the school board, you're told that you have to go to a special meeting, in a sense, on how to act appropriately on the school board.
I did, Michael. Mike, just to cut in here real quick.
Yeah.
When I was elected to the school board out in Montana, we had the same thing. I had to go to school. They sent me to a class to probably learn. I forget back then. I don't remember what happened last week.
But I just found it interesting. So now you've got this independent individual who's now being told really the ways to act on the school board. And I think by the time we get to that position, we should know how to act on the school board. So I just found it interesting that there's still manipulation even once you get elected, Lou.
Yeah, well, we need common core for school board members.
People who are going to say no.
Michael, we're done, my friend. You got the last word.
Hey, God bless all.
God bless everybody. Enjoy this great weekend.